What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Carpool Gaming's The PlayStation Drive. My name's Matt, and I'll be your driver for this adventure's events. I'm joined by the bearded one himself, the glorious, the gracious, the incredible, Mr. Seth Sturgill. What's up, Seth?
Hey, buddy. Good to be here. Always a pleasure to hang out with you over here in PlayStation Land. Always a pleasure to be glorious. I really appreciated... I just wanted to say right out the gate, because I don't know if everybody picked up on this, but when you announced that I was coming on the show and you put the call out for questions, your video was riddled with Blink-182 references, and
Yep.
I very, very much appreciated it indeed, my friend.
Well, I mean, with it being you and with new Blink, like I had to. You know what?
Yeah.
We're gonna take a giant left swerve right off the top here.
Please.
And I'm gonna bring in a question from the audience right away. This comes from a dear friend of the show, the always first time listener Steve Vigari at Escavari. Steve asks, "Hi PlayStation Drive, long time, first time. I could ask a question about PlayStation, but there's something more important that we need to discuss. What's the official PlayStation Drive review scores for the new Blink tracks? Thanks, stay sexy." We got two new Blink tracks, Seth. We got One More Time, and we got More Than You Know last Friday. More Than You Know was a surprise. One More Time, we knew that was coming. Ahead of the new album coming on October 20th, the same day as Spider-Man 2, same day as Mario Bros. Wonder. This is what we love. We're stoked about this. So I'm gonna throw to you first. Give me your ratings on One More Time and More Than You Know.
Oh, ratings.
Yeah.
Are we doing it like a 5-star, a 10 points?
Like out of 10. 10 points.
Out of 10. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Oh man. I would say that I prefer One More Time. One More Time is just an emotional gut punch. Like I actually listened to that and it put me in a strange emotional place the rest of the day after I listened to it. Because it just like it's all the feelings coming into it from the opening line, strangers into brothers, from brothers into strangers once again, you know, like just like damn man, y'all are really doing something there. Even like I was even in this place where like the opening sort of chord progression of that song reminds me of There Is from Boxcar Racer, and I'm just like all these things swirling around. I'm like, oh man. So anyways, I really, really love that song. It makes perfect sense that it is like the title track of the album. I would give that probably like a 8.5 or something.
Okay.
It's very, very good. I have allowed More Than is it More Than You'd Ever Know, or is it just More Than You Know, the title of the
More
track?
Than You Know.
Yeah.
We'll check it, but I'm pretty sure. But go on.
Yes. It's but that one's really good, and it's funny because you and I have already talked extensively about this.
Yeah.
But it has mad like self-titled album vibes, those sort of like early to mid 2000s vibe, very fast, very punk, very like driving beat. I do still feel like there's a weird like sort of like juxtaposition between especially the pre-chorus. I'm not a huge fan of the pre-chorus, but I still really like it. That one's still probably like a 7.5 or 8. Like they're both great. I really like it a lot. I can't wait for this album.
Dude, same. But like I think One More Time as an 8.5 is spot on. I think the music video as well, the flashing through the different parts of the other music videos, the always kind of split screen, seeing what's going, like seeing all the love that they put on. Travis singing for the first time, like there's just so much there that completely like pulls on your heart. For like longtime fans of the band, like that was everything about them coming back, and that was them definitively saying, "We're back. The three of us are back." I personally loved the Skiba era. Like I understand that's what Blink needed to be at the time, but you know, you can't deny having Tom back. Like this is just, it's been them. You know what I mean? It's been them for multiple decades. And I actually really, really, really like More Than You Know. I like More Than You Know probably better than More Than One More Time.
Wow,
I'd probably give that a 9 out of 10. I love the drums. I love the energy. Like it just feels so big and so in your face to like, you know, having Tom like not like yelling back on the chorus and stuff again. Like it just feels like this is them being like, we know we're back. This is Untitled. This is Dogs Eating Dogs. Like it was a good 1-2 punch to get those two songs together, and we got 15 more coming in a month, dude. So
yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be such a big day. October 20th could not be a more like banner day on the calendar, dude.
Seriously, you better believe we'll be celebrating it here. And Seth, Sean in the chat. We need to start the show with more Blink-182. Love more often. Don't worry. I'm sure Seth and I will probably do something around the album release. Just wait for it.
Let's go. Yeah.
But without further ado, of course, we have to clean this dirty old garage of ours. If you're watching the show live on youtube.com/carpoolgaming, please like the stream. Please subscribe. Please share everything. Leave a comment. Helps us grow. Helps us find more people. Ring that bell so you know when we go live, you know, when there's cool stuff, you know. If you're listening to us on your podcast service of choice, please hit us with that 5 stars. Hit us with that review. We appreciate it all very, very much. And of course, if you have extra bucks to toss our way, head to patreon.com/carpoolgaming. Toss the bucks into the tip jar, and out comes a cornucopia of content for you to consume. We appreciate all of you so very, very much. But folks, this is a packed show. We have a ton of news. We have a ton of questions. There's so much here to celebrate Seth's return. So let's get into it. But before we get into all of that, of course, Seth, we got to start off with talking about what we've been playing. Our playlist has been all Blink-182 this weekend. But on our gaming playlist, we got to bring that up. And before I let you pop off, Seth, I'm going to bring in another question from the chat.
Oh God.
Okay. From the Discord, because Stingray X asks, can we get an update on Seth's run of Ghost of Tsushima?
There it is. I was waiting. There it is. I was waiting to get held over the coals a little bit. Okay. Here's the deal. For those who have not been following this journey, we did our we did our tournament bracket, our sort of like committed relationship tournament bracket. I see Sean in the chat is like, get him, woo, woo, woo. So we drew our games and everything, and I made the mistake of putting Ghost of Tsushima on my list because I really do want to play it. However, I was like the one that got saddled with like a 40-hour open world, RPG. Everybody else is like, I'm gonna just blitz through Portal 2, or Shovel Knight or whatever, and like I'm sitting here with this big thing, and it was like right before Zelda came out, also. So I got like 10-ish hours into it, and I was really enjoying it. And yeah, like after Zelda came out, that obviously took my attention away, and I have not gone back to it since. Now, I will go back to it. I will finish it before the end of the year. That is my solemn vow. That will happen. Okay. And I will report back when these things, but yeah, Sean's point in the chat, lessons were learned. Never again will I put a big game like that in my tournament bracket. Never again.
I feel you. But okay, so Ghost of Tsushima has been on the back burner, but we're gonna get back to it. What else has been?
I will. The big thing I'll shout out, because obviously I play a lot of Switch, but there's a game that I've been playing lately that I think is really special that I'll just kind of highlight here. That is also on PlayStation, called Chants of Sennaar. Which is it's an indie game. I feel like I'm always bringing like weird little indie games over here every time I pop over here, but I love them. It is this interesting game where you play as this character who sort of wakes up in this like strange land, this other culture, and the people are, yes please, Matt from the press.
How do you spell Sennaar?
It's Sennaar, I think.
Okay, I'm trying to look this up while you're talking.
Right?
That's why. Go on.
Yeah, Chants of Sennaar.
Okay.
Yeah, Chants. And it's, you wake up in this place, and like the people are speaking a language that you don't understand. The writing is in a language that you don't understand. And so basically the point of the game is to just learn how to live and communicate in this world. It's like this interesting puzzle game where you're having to use things like context clues to sort of decipher the things that the people are saying. Yeah, here it is. Matt's pulling it up. I think this is on PlayStation 5 as well. But it's great. And just this visual style, it's got this like striking sort of, bright, vibrant colors. And just like this iconography, the like sort of culture and religion of this world. Yeah, you're having to sneak past people, but really, yeah, the point is just like learning the language. You have this like codex. You're pulling out your book. And you're like, yeah, because eventually you can sort of like learn the symbols and learn what people are saying around you to where eventually you're just kind of like, you literally are learning a new language.
Realizing that all of these people have been just nothing but curse words this entire time. They're all just swearing
Yeah.
obscenely at you throughout your
There's a little bit of that.
journey.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. There'll be people who will like call you an idiot or whatever.
Nice.
It's really cool. I really, really like it. So, yeah.
Nice, dude.
I love it.
This looks really cool. It reminds me kind of like the very like Journey slash that other game that I'm blanking on the name that hit Game Pass. It was almost like Zelda like, but in the desert.
Oh, Sable.
Very, very Sable.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very much like in that realm of art style and graphics, but it looks really cool. So far so good. You're enjoying it?
I love it. Yeah, I was trying to finish it up this past weekend, but the weekend got busy. I'm pretty close. I'm a good ways in, but I love it. Yeah, totally a court game. Yeah.
Totally a court game. 100% a court game. Nice, dude.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. As for myself, I finally finished Baldur's Gate 3. Loved it. It is easily my game of the year so far.
Yeah.
It's going to be honestly a tough battle between that and probably, I'm guessing, Spider-Man 2, if that obviously, sticks landing, which I'm confident that it will. For my top slot, and like some of those fights, especially in the back third of the game, like I got through with like barely scraping by. Like it was really, the game pushed back on me incredibly, and some of those like last encounters are really just going to stay with me, just how much they challenged me. But it was one of those things where it's like reloading and being like, okay, hold on, what do I do here, okay, well, reload, okay, what am I going to do here, what am I going to do here, and just trying to figure out. It was almost like oh my god, what is with my memory today? What was that game, Seth, where it was like Advance Wars, but it was robots and you're fighting bugs, and
Into the Breach.
it was on. Thank you. It was like almost like Into the Breach, like where like I have all these pieces, I know my characters, I know all of my abilities, and what combination of these is it going to let me, reach the outcome that I want to get to? It almost like devolved into that just because of how many enemies there were on screen, how much was going on. Drellesh, how many hours did it take me to complete Baldur's Gate 3? I would guess around 50. I think around 50 hours was my final count.
That's not
so
bad.
Bunch that I missed. I know there's a bunch that I missed, but like for the way that I was playing it was like, if I get interested in something, I'm gonna go do it. If I'm not interested, I'm not gonna bother. Like I was very much like role playing as my group, and I was just like, I'm not out to see everything and do everything. If something caught my attention, I went for it. But just like the amount that game kind of stretches and just kind of like lets you do whatever you want. Oh wow, like Kevin style. It was Matt style before it was Kevin style. I finished games faster.
Called out.
Yeah,
Damn.
That's right. Bring it. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I've been playing more of Motorsport as well. That game is awesome. It really is. Like if you're looking for Forza Horizon on PlayStation, that's your best bet. The game is a lot of fun. It looks good, runs well. I've had no issues. And it's a great time. I'm enjoying it. I kind of hop in, do a couple races, hop back out. And then the other thing that I'm now very much back in on is Tales into Reverie. One of my, favorite franchises of all time. This being like the culmination of the 2 decades that came before it into this one game. And I'm finally back to it. I was playing it and, Baldur's Gate just pulled me away immensely. But I'm back into it, really, really enjoying it. Very much like the Avengers Endgame, pulling all these characters together from all over this continent into like a massive final storyline to kind of, end this arc of everything that we've known so far before it goes off into a new country next year. Loving it. Again, just fantastic stuff. So that's been kind of what's been keeping my attention, my dude. But without further ado, we have so much news, Seth. We have so many questions. We're going to keep this train a-rolling, a-chugging, some would say, with our first story staying in the Trails wheelhouse, coming from Console Creatures. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4 are coming to PS5 in early 2024. Following the Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak announcement, we'll talk about it in a sec. NIS America has announced that Legends of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4 are getting native PS5 ports in early 2024. This is, of course, the second half of the Erebonian arc. This bringing together 3 and 4. 1 and 2, I believe, are on PS5 through the ways of backwards compatibility with PS4 stuff right now. But Cold Steel 3 and 4 are getting native PS5 ports written by Dennis. So Super stoked for this. Super stoked that it will be more available to more folks to check these games out. Seth, has this series ever done anything for you? Has it ever?
Well, like it hasn't not. I look at this and I'm like, I feel like this is an entire thing that has like passed me by. Before we started recording, we were talking about like anime, like One Piece and Naruto that's just so far gone.
Mhm.
This is another one. Now I'm not saying that I'll never get to these. Maybe someday I will, but this is like another language for me. It's like, ah yes, the Erebonian arc and the
Yep.
I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here. But like I have a lot of friends who are way into this.
Mhm.
And it's like I got into the Ease series this year, apropos of nothing. I just decided to start playing Ease, and now I just love the Ease series. So, who knows? Like maybe my day with this will come someday. I know a lot of people who love it.
Dude, you should really, really check them out. As someone who really appreciates things like world building and how all of these like disparate pieces can come together over time, this is very, very much a Seth series. Obviously, you just need the time to put into it. But like, you basically take what is essentially like a Game of Thrones style political intrigue, throw in a bunch of weeb stuff on top of it, and then you basically have the different chains of games that take place in different countries that all starts to come together towards the back half of it. Just really, really fantastic stuff. You really, really could not go wrong. And a lot of the later ones have a fast forward mode. So even though they're 40 or 50 hour long RPGs, turn that fast forward on. I play all of them on fast forward just because I like the experience that way. It helps me get them through them in 20 to 25 hours instead of 40 to 50.
It's also the way like when you're just caffeinated all the time, it's the way you experience the world. So it just looks true.
Exactly.
we're all on fast forward.
And like everybody knows that you and I specifically talk very slowly. We're known for being very, very methodical in our words and very, very
have to be
slow in our speech. Have to be. But yeah, dude, 100%. And I'm gonna stay on this Trails train for one more story here, real quick, Seth, because I can't not talk about Trails Through Daybreak announced as well, coming once again from Console Creatures. The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak announced launches summer 2024. It's a good day to be a Trails fan, as NS America has announced the Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak will launch on PC, PS4, PS5, and Switch next summer. It is the next game in the Trails series and officially kicks off the second half of an ongoing story. So this, for anyone unaware, is everything that's come before has taken place in a giant empire, a small city-state, and a smaller country. And this is essentially this is the last major country that we haven't been to yet. We know players from this area, but this is taking us into the next country that's been at war, with amongst all of this stuff. So I'm super, super, super excited about this. This is one that's been out in Japan for a couple of years now, and we're finally getting this chapter and the continuation of it. And I just can't wait, dude. I can't wait. Everything about these games, the character writing, the world building, everything is just so well thought out and well put together. And the combat's just great, Seth. I can't wait.
Let's go.
I'm just very excited.
Big week for dorks. Big week for dorks.
Big week for dorks, dude. Huge week for dorks. So much going on in
Let's
the
go.
land of dorks.
I love
it. Let's keep this train rolling because I know those are very, very mad stories, but I had to shout them out because, Seth, did you know that if you buy a new PS5, you can currently claim a free game? This is coming from IGN, written by Robert Anderson. But if you're in the US and buy a PS5 console between now and October 20th, you'll be entitled to a free PS5 digital game of your choosing. The brand new deal is eligible for anyone who will buy or have bought the console since September 20th. You can get Miles Morales, Spider-Man Remastered, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Demon's Souls, Last of Us Part 1, Sackboy, Returnal, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collections, and Death Stranding Director's Cut. Seth, what do you think about a free game if you buy a PS5?
I mean, I love a free game. I actually just had my co-host on All In, Eric, he just yesterday bought a PS5 for the first time. And you know what it was? It was Mortal Kombat 1 that pushed him to do it, because like he, like me, obviously is another big, but that Switch port, dude, is hilariously bad. And he was like, nope, we're not doing it. I'm finally just getting a PS5. And so we saw this come down, and it just is a further selling point. I think it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, the moment you buy a PS5, you get to come home and have access to, one of these great games. The PS5, now that we're a few years in, has really sort of hit its stride and has, some great first party exclusive games. I mean, the fact that you can bring that home and immediately have Spider-Man and God of War Ragnarok, like it's awesome.
It is really cool. I miss the days of like, the bundles and the packaged in titles that of which feels like years and years and years ago. It sucks that those things don't really exist anymore, but it's nice that they're doing this. I do still wish that they kept around the PlayStation Plus collection for new owners to come in, if where they got like a library of free games. But it's nice to see them at least doing something, and it does include some pretty recent titles, which is nice to see. So, and it's good. Again, a lot of the times, even with those bundles, you have to buy a game that you may like, you may not like, but at least this, you have a pretty incredible list of games to choose from. Everybody knows that Sean is going to buy another one just to get another copy of Horizon. He loves those games so much.
He needs to replay them. And if he threw that, I wonder what would happen if Sean threw that onto his committed relationship bracket. I wonder if the community would come through. Maybe they would.
It's funny. Every time we do one of those, it is just usually meant for pain. We generally try and support each other, but when it comes to those things, there's no Ruth. It's ruthless. It's just we just go for the jugular and make each other play whatever we want. So,
I mean, look, if 24 the game and James Cameron's Dark Angel the game can make it, why can't Horizon?
Why can't Horizon? We could take that train straight to the station. You know what I mean?
I think so.
But we have even more to talk about, my friend, because hopping over to the distant future, coming from VGC, written by Chris Scullion. Cyberpunk 2077's big version 2.0 update is out, and it gets full patch notes. We're not going to go through all of the patch notes, but it's out. The 2.0 version is out. The expansion Phantom Liberty is launching tomorrow. But just to highlight a couple of things, of course, there's a new police system, new vehicle combat. They've enhanced all of the AI. They've completely retooled the perk tree overhaul. They've completely redone a whole bunch of stuff here. But before we talk about Cyberpunk, I'm just going to pull in the second Cyberpunk story right away, because we have confirmation of... Where did that go? Here we go. The times that Cyberpunk will be launching. This is coming from Wesley over at IGN. The times. Because the expansion Phantom Liberty will be hitting at 1 a.m. CEST on September 26th on PC, midnight local time on Xbox Series X and S, and on PlayStation. So you'll be able to play that tonight, midnight, if you're on console, and shortly after that on PC. Seth, are you a Cyberpunk guy? Are you going to be have you played the game? Is this enough for you to return to the game? Where are you at on good old Cyberpunk 2077? I would call a pretty major redemption story.
Yeah. Oh, big time. It was one of those, like, it was funny. I saw somebody tweet about this. I don't remember who it was, but somebody tweeted like, oh, Cyberpunk finally came out this week. And it sort of feels that way. Like it sort of feels like finally they've had the time that they probably always needed to really get that game in the shape that it should have been when it launched, I guess. But they have fixed it, and like I've heard amazing things about the game. I've owned it actually for a long time. I picked it up for like $20 a year or two ago or something like that. Like very, very cheap. And I have it, and I've actually been waiting for this DLC to drop to just like go in on it. So now that the DLC is out, I really just want to experience the whole sort of thing, the sort of finished package. I definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, dude, like it's nice to see that, reviews came out for Phantom Liberty. It was getting 10s, it was getting 9s, like it was getting very, very high scores across the board. So a lot of people calling it the return to the DLC that, Cyberpunk, that CD Projekt was known for with the Witcher 3 DLC with things like Blood and Wine. So it's apparently a massive success. I played Cyberpunk at launch on PS5. And I beat it. I liked the game for what it was, and I could see that underneath the technical issues, underneath the unfinished product, there was something very, very special there. And it was, it kept me going enough that even despite all of its issues, I wanted to keep going. I wanted to see that game through to its end. So to hear now that the game is in a much better state, that Phantom Liberty is going to be incredible, that there's so much to kind of, dive into here, I'm very, very excited. I re-downloaded it yesterday. I booted up a new save. And by the way, anybody who has it on the PS5, make sure that you you essentially need to delete it and re-download it since the 2.0 update, because it's apparently like a completely different thing. So just be aware that, yeah, apparently it's like a big change. So make sure you're ready for it. But I downloaded it. I was a street kid my first playthrough when I played it at launch. I'm going to be a corpo this time. I made my character, hopped in, and probably played only about half an hour. So not enough to really give impressions on what I think about 2.0 so far, but it is something I'm going to be continuing on with. I think it's something that will probably be like a back burner game for me, as I still have some other games ahead in the queue that I want to keep playing with. But it's really, really nice to see that CD Projekt has, found their stride again, that hopefully that place has turned around a little bit, and that with Phantom Liberty, they really are kind of sticking the landing. Because it was always sad to see, after coming off of the heights of what The Witcher 3 was and its expansions, to just come crashing down with Cyberpunk. It's nice to see them, get another win. Like, I think this is cool. And I'm excited to see what the DLC and the expansion plays like, because again, it's getting such good reviews, Seth. It blows my mind.
And Idris Elba, I mean, like, who doesn't want
Elba, dude.
Idris Elba? That's what you call a hall pass celebrity, Matt. That's what you call a hall pass celebrity. You know what I mean?
Toss that thing down. I mean, Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba together in the same game. That's just a couple of hall passes right there. So you really cannot go wrong.
That's right.
Yeah, it's nice to see. We have some. I think we have some questions about Cyberpunk. We'll leave those for the questions section. Let's keep this news train rolling, because we have even more, dude. Let's swing over into the world of Spider-Man 2, because IGN had a story that went up, written by Taylor Lyles, that Spider-Man 2 has fall damage, but you can toggle it on and off. If you're excited to play PlayStation 5 exclusive Spider-Man 2 and looking to add a bit more realism and challenge to your web-slinging adventure, you can turn on fall damage, this developer Insomniac has confirmed to IGN. This new feature was first pointed out by YouTuber Caboose. While the creator has no footage of Spider-Man 2's fall damage in action, it admits to not testing the feature during his hands-on demo of the game. He admits he discovered the feature exists in-game as he was fiddling around in settings and saw a toggle button to turn fall damage on or off. Now, this is something that the community was actually asking for, along with the confirmation that when you're web swinging, if you were kind of wall running, there was like a quick left-right zip around a corner and you would cling to the wall. They've apparently added a feature that is pretty much that while you're web swinging. So you can really, really, really customize your web swinging experience very, very minutely if you want, where, again, you have to worry about how you're going to hit the ground and how fast you're going to go. I'm going to try it out. I don't know if I'm going to play the entire game with fall damage on, but I actually think that this is a really cool addition for people who wanted it. Like, why not? You really can. You can really feel your Spider-Man. And of course, if you mess up, you'll just be that good old Tobey Maguire meme just complaining about his back.
That's true. Yeah, my gut reaction to this was like, hang on, let's really dissect that line of thinking. The idea of I want realism in my web swinging is a little bit strange to me, but yeah, like I could maybe see, why not, I guess is what you just said is the ultimate way I think of thinking about it. Like, just why not? Why not at least throw it in there for people who do care about that sort of thing? I'll have it off. I mean, like, I'm not about that life. I don't want to determine how high is too high for Spider-Man to fall. You know what I mean? Like,
busting out like a protractor, trying to
I don't want to know that
properly.
I don't want to know that, dude. I will take all the falling, no damage, but for the people who want it, pop off.
Pop off all the buildings. Just make sure you're watching how fast you're falling. I think it's a cool ad. But for those who want it, it's nice that it's a toggle. It's nice that it's not something that forces you into it. Staying on this Marvel train, I have to shout this out because Marvel's Avengers drops to $3.99 ahead of its delisting later this month, coming from BGC, written by Chris Scullion. The game's single player and multiplayer will continue to be available. It's on sale now on all the platforms you can find it on for essentially $3.99. It is officially, Crystal Dynamics has announced it's officially ending all support on September 30th. So it's going to be removed from the digital storefronts. It is going away. You have a few more days to pick this game up. Honestly, I think that I wish this game got the same love and treatment that Cyberpunk, that No Man's Sky did, because again, there is a good game in its bones, and the campaign is a lot of fun. The expansions had some cool stuff in them when they worked properly, and the characters are fun to use. I think for $4, you seriously cannot go wrong. If you're at all a Marvel fan, if you're at all a fan of action adventure games, like this for $4, you really like this is a steal. And it will be gone forever soon. So if you have been at all curious for $4, essentially the price of a Starbucks coffee, go pick up Marvel's Avengers. Like
Might as
this
well.
game got shafted in a horrible way, and I wish it had a better story.
Yeah, I mean, this felt like a game that, like, by the time it came out, it was like unfortunate timing. I felt like more than anything when it came out, because it isn't necessarily that the game was like busted. It was just that the industry was sort of moving on from like the style of game that it was already. Like, it's such a fluid industry that, like, games really kind of have to come out at just the right time to capture a trend if they're trying to capture it. And I feel like Marvel's Avengers sort of fell victim to that a little bit. And it, I mean, to come in for $3.99 to still have access to that kind of content, I think is great. Didn't they make it to where like all the characters and stuff were just baked into it now as well?
Everything is free. All of the costumes, everything that was paid previously is now completely free. So you literally get the entire experience, all the MCU costumes, everything for $4.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't, I mean, yeah, why not? So you gotta get in. I've owned it for a while. I got it for pretty cheap for a while. So, but it seems like a great, like, sort of last ditch. Like, you got a few more days. Let's quietly make a few more bucks off of this too. Yep. I'm sure you're gonna have some last minute purchases. So.
Yeah, dude, for $4, like I said, that single player campaign is a lot of fun. So just go for it. If you've been at all curious, just hop in. A few more stories to go here before we talk about our wonderful community's questions. I wish Court was here for this one. Coming from BGC, written by Chris Scullion once again. Ubisoft announces The Division 3 with massive entertainment set to develop. The studio's already working on Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar. The publisher announced that Julian Garetti, apologize for probably butchering your name, who's currently serving as creative director on Star Wars Outlaws, has been appointed executive producer of the Division series. As part of the announcement, it was confirmed that Division 3 will be one of the projects Garetti will oversee, and that Massive Entertainment will be leading development as it has done with the previous 2 games. This is definitely a Court game. Obviously, Court has something like 7,000 hours in across the Division games. He's a huge fan of this, so I'm stoked for him. Neither one of them really ever grabbed me enough. I played both of them a bit. But like, again, stoked to see that it's getting another run out. I know a lot of people do really love this game, but where are you at on the Division 3, my dude?
I'm with you. I played the first one for a decent little bit and quite enjoyed it. Like, I love the setup of the Division. Like, I think the setup is really cool. This notion of like collapse happening like on Black Friday because they put like a virus on the money on Black Friday or something like that. It's a cool setup. It's neat. And I think it feels good. Like, it's like a good feeling third person shooter and stuff. And I never got around to the Division 2, and now they're talking about 3, and it's like, oh man, well, okay. It's interesting how they announced this though, because this was not attached to like any sort of, I mean, we just had the Ubisoft Forward a few months ago. Like, I'm a little surprised that they didn't stick it in there. This is just kind of like a press release announcement. So, I don't know. That was a bit strange.
I do agree that I think the announcement was a little odd, because this does feel like a big deal. Like, the Division series does seem to be one that like people that like it a lot. I think for me, the enemies and stuff always felt a little too spongy. Like, the gunplay, yes, everything felt good, but I just didn't like how long it took to put some of those enemies down. And for me, I was just over the whole very specific loot nature of what that game is, and constantly swapping stuff out. But I'm excited that this exists. I'm sure Court will have more to say about it next week. But yeah, similarly, dude, I think the announcement is weird. Like, you'd think again, they would have kind of rolled this out earlier, or at least maybe even waited to have even like a teaser trailer to show. There was no even like hype video to like show off the logo or anything. So this to me screams that it is probably not even in pre-production properly yet. This is probably like a 2026, 2027 game at the earliest, if that studio is already working on Avatar and Star Wars, both, kind of ready to come out in the next 6 months. This is probably a little ways out, but for all the Division fans, I'm happy for you, and I'm sure Court will have much more to say about this next week, because this is very much a court
A
game.
court game. That's right.
Let's round out this wonderful news block with a couple Final Fantasy stories, because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will include a new episode with Zach. This is written by Rebecca Valentine over on IGN. Zach Bear fans, we have some good news for you. Not only do we know the smooth-talking hero of Final Fantasy Crisis Core will appear in Final Fantasy Rebirth, but it looks like he's getting an entire episode all for himself. We learned this in a recent interview with Final Fantasy Rebirth producer Yoshinori Kitase, in which he talks briefly about some of the differences between Rebirth and the corresponding segment of the original Final Fantasy VII. Kitase said that the order of certain events in the storyline of Rebirth might differ from the original, and the order in which characters join the party has been quote-unquote reimagined. But largely, Rebirth tells the story of Final Fantasy VII from the end of Remake up to the Forgotten Capital sequence, but it seems to be adding a little more. Furthermore, as you know, with the original Final Fantasy VII, the character of Zack Fair is one that doesn't appear as much in the original title. However, we see at the end of Remake that he has appeared, which, you know, is quite a difference from the original title. And as for Rebirth, there will be a new episode with Zack that will contain even more of him than the remake. I'm not able to say much more than this, as I would like for other players to play and experience this with it in their own hands. Folks, we're not going to be spoiling anything about anything that's come before, just because I know there are folks in the community who are coming into this for the first time. I only just played Crisis Core recently for my first experience with it, but I'm stoked to hear that we're going. Like, I mean, Zach's on the cover, right? He's on the cover art. We know he's going to be in this in a big way. Seth, are you excited that we're getting more of Zach? Where's the hype level at on Rebirth?
I can't wait. Maybe. I don't know, but it's definitely one of my most anticipated games right now. Like, I can't wait. I was so surprised about that first one, about Final Fantasy VII Remake. I came into it with furrowed brows. I came into it being like, like, is this just going to be like a prettier version of a game I'm already very, very familiar with? But it's not. I mean, it's like just as much a remake as it is like a sequel. Like, it really is like its own thing, and it really sort of like earned its own the right to exist, I guess. Like it really earned its place, and I loved that first one. Makes sense they're doing DLC for this. They did that integrate, thing for the first one as well. So I mean, it makes perfect sense. But I think that, like, this excites me so much because even though they're trying to like give these little touchstones of like where you should expect like the story to go and where it'll end, it's not going to go the way you think it is. No. The first game proved that. Like this still has a lot to sort of chew on for fans of this game. And I think somebody asked me recently, like, so like the perception for some people who might not know like about Final Fantasy VII or Remake or whatever is like, well, hang on, like, why are they just like getting $3 $60 $70 games out of this one game? And it's like, no, it's a different thing. And and pulling on Zack so hard is really interesting because, to your point, they did just re-release Crisis Core, and I mean, look, like, that was a PSP game that was really cool and really good, and I actually liked the treatment they gave it, but they did it for a reason. Like, they do want to get Zack a little bit more out there, and I'm all about it. I love that character, and I can't wait to see the way he sort of weaves into this new story. I cannot wait for this. Can't wait.
Yeah, I this is easily one of my most hyped games out of next year. Within the span of a month, we're getting New Like a Dragon, Persona, and Final Fantasy. So like, you're not going to hear from me for a couple months, or you're going to hear way too much of me. But like, I can't wait for this. I wonder, because it sounds like this won't be actually DLC. This is going to be something that's going to be inside
in the game.
That's the way it sounds like. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is an early confirmation of DLC. But this sounds to me like Zack is very much going to be part of the narrative in some way, shape, or form. He might have his kind of dedicated section within Rebirth, which I'm very, very excited about. The character is great. And like you mentioned, I think there was a lot of people that were very curious, and maybe the original game had quite a few naysayers. The entire game is only Midgar. How is all this happening? And I think what they're showing us, and especially from what we've seen of Rebirth, just how big they're going and how much they're doing, seeing the Golden Saucer, seeing the mini game, seeing so much of what that game has to offer. There's so much love there, and I cannot wait to see what the folks have in store for us. And again, like, whatever comes next after Rebirth, like, I can't wait, dude. All of this is just so cool. It's so cool. If you're at all curious, anybody who's spoiler conscious, do not go. But Maximilian Dude has some really, really cool breakdowns on his channel. He's been doing a bunch of theory crafting for what all of this could mean and what his theories are for where the story's going. Fascinating stuff, whether he's right or wrong. I think it's really cool to listen to. Worth to go check out.
Nice. Isn't isn't Remake on like PS Plus Extra? Don't they have that on there at this point?
I do believe it is. Let me double check, and I do believe Integrate
so.
is there as well.
Yes. So I think like, and the reason I bring that up is because I think that like people should feel like comfortable to jump in on that. You really don't need to have played Final Fantasy VII. You can just jump in. And I also think that if you're the type of person who looked at Final Fantasy 16 and said, this is not my Final Fantasy or whatever, it's more of an action game or whatever the case may be, I think that the FF7 remake and now Rebirth is pretty much the perfect like carrying forward of classic Final Fantasy into the modern age, where it is still like real time, it is very action heavy, but it still has a lot of the sort of turn-based sort of strategic like elements of old it feels like an old Final Fantasy brought into the modern age. So
I think you're 100% right with that. And yeah, Integrate is on Extra. So easy way to go hop in if you're on PS5 to check out that, because the Yuffie expansion was also fantastic.
Yes.
Just a great bunch of content there. But we'll have much more to say about Final Fantasy as we get closer to launch. Without further ado, my friend, we have so many questions from our wonderful community. If you want your question on the show, we have a X post that goes live each and every week for you to interact with, or join the free Discord and come hang out with us and chat with us, where you can get masterpieces like Drellesh essentially doing a retelling, almost like a fanfic of what if Fulia was a Dark Jedi and I was. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Oh my gosh, the lore!
There's heavy lore now. Black Wyver writes in with questions for the show and asks, number one, he's got 3. With the release of the DLCs like Separate Ways and Phantom Liberty, do you think there could be a physical re-release including the DLC?
That'd be interesting. I feel like, especially in PlayStation and Xbox land, I feel like there is a much smaller, I guess, physical like push. Like I could see them maybe doing like a Ultimate Edition or a Game of the Year edition or something like that. You know, that winds up getting a physical release. Totally right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's possible. Just because, you know, they like to get their money. Like usually alongside these things, they might do like your PS5 version or whatever. But both of those games already have PS5 versions. But again, Resident Evil specifically has known to do Game of the Year editions. That, you know, they've done them before. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it again. And Cyberpunk, if this DLC kind of lands the way that they're hoping for, I could totally see them doing a re-release. Here's the complete edition. Here's all the updates. Here's everything rolled into one package. I could totally see it happening. Black Wyver continues. What, to you, is the ideal time gap between the original release and release of the DLC? Is Separate Ways too early? Do you think it should have been part of the original release?
No, not too early. I think this is good. I think it's ideally, I think you want to have DLC like 6 months, you know, like, cause for me and I think for a lot, especially in a year like this where there's just so much competing for your time, so many amazing games coming out all the time, that like you really do need to have DLC ready to go. Like Mario plus Rabbids, I look at that as something like, they didn't release their final, that big Rayman DLC that everybody's been waiting for. It just came out like a year after the game came out. It's like we've moved on, you know. Like I would like to go back to it, but we've moved on, man. So I would like, ideally, I think having it out in that like 6 month time frame is ideal. But then you get the naysayers who are like, why wasn't it just part of the main game, and blah blah blah. So I mean, you know, it's kind of 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, I think. But I want it closer to the release, as close to the release as you can get away with, because like for me, when I move on, I kind of move on personally. So I'm 100% in agreement with you. I think for me, within that first 6 month window, it's also just like, you're right, you will catch flack for it from people who are like, why isn't it in the base game? But for me, part of it is also just
remembering how to play the game. Like when the Ghost of Tsushima Director's
Right.
Edition came out and coming back to Iki Island, I got my butt beat the first couple hours because I was just like, how do I play this game again? So I think a large portion of it, and like, the Tales of Arise DLC that was just announced is coming out in November, is fantastic, but I'm going to have to relearn that game. Like I'm excited to get pieces of what, of what might come next, or a different chapter in the story or whatever else. But the longer it is after the game, there's so much more to compete with. And it's so easy to like hand wave away DLC or an expansion when you have entire new games to kind of compete with. It's why even like with Phantom Liberty for me, it's not at the top of my list just because I've played that game. I know what that game is. As excited as I am for the DLC, it's not my number one priority right now. So I think the closer you are to the launch of the game, the better. And it also, I think, just depends on what you're doing with it. Is it more narrative? Is it, more whatever. I think MMOs get away with it better because those games are ever present. You're living in those worlds. Final Fantasy 14 sees massive success with everything that they do because, again, people live in those games regardless of how long it's been or what other games come out. So I think for stuff like this, the closer the better. I agree with you, Seth. And his final question, what game has your all-time favorite DLC?
The first thing that came to my mind, and maybe it's because I was just talking about this recently, I love the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect 3. I mean, there are a ton of amazing DLCs. Undead Nightmare for Red Dead Redemption, I think, is one of the great DLCs of all time. But I go back to Mass Effect 3 because it's so often in games, especially in games like Mass Effect 3, where, you go on this journey with all these characters, and you don't ever really get time to just, like, look back and like celebrate. That DLC is all about having like a final party with all of the characters of Mass Effect, and you've grown to love them all so much, and it's literally like, let's hang out, dance, eat, and drink and talk. It's a big party, and like I love that. I wish more games would allow for stuff like that. There's a moment in Sea of Stars that is kind of like that. Like, just give me a chance to hang out with these characters and really sort of like look back on the journey that we've had together, especially when it's a sprawling RPG like this. More things in general need parties. More things, more movies, more games, whatever. The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 dance party, like we need the Return of the Jedi celebration. Like, we need more celebrating just in general, is what I think.
I think you're right. Just more parties. I think every game that now comes out needs a DLC requirement where there has to just be a party.
Yes,
I'm with
please.
you entirely. Just party DLC. Just make it happen. Just make it happen. I think for me, the first thing that came to mind was Left Behind. Just because I really do love that kind of added chapter where it's like it recontextualizes parts of the game. It adds more depth to what came before it, and it almost makes you want to replay the base game again, looking for nods and clues to things that come forth to light within that DLC. I think that for me is kind of where expansions or DLC really stick the landing. Is either give me a new experience or let me learn a little bit more about what came before. I think again, Drellesh shouts it out, but Blood and Wine is and both Hearts of Stone and Blood of Wine. I think Hearts of Stone far too often gets overlooked, but two of the best expansions. Everything Final Fantasy 14, like there's a lot there that just has fantastic stuff. I agree with you, and just parties. We need more parties.
More parties, man.
More parties, dude. Ed Varnell at the Boss Rush Network at that Retro Crowd writes in and asks, which Sony first-party game would you go and see a script reading? Who do you think would draw a sold-out audience? Where would you like to go see a script reading? I think for me, the easy answer is The Last of Us. Again,
I was just going to say,
like those voice actors, the star power that some of them hold, and especially if you incorporate the actors from the TV series in some way, shape, or form to have this almost like dual reading or something along the lines there. I think that's the cultural zeitgeist that property has hit now. I think that would sell out very, very easily. Obviously, I'd love to see a Spider-Man 1-2. Yuri and the rest of the cast are just so good that it'd be hard to pass going to see them up. But what do you think, Seth?
The Last of Us is the correct answer, I think. Like selfishly, I would even love to see something like a little goofier. Like I would love to see like a Ratchet and Clank live reading or something like that. Like just something a little like funny and so out of this world that it's almost kind of hard to describe like a radio play. But I would love to see more kind of stuff like that in general. We've had as a matter of fact, I think they did something like this for The Last of Us. I think they did like a live read performance of either the first or the second one or something.
Did they?
I'm almost positive they did that at one point. And I think they might have even had what's the composer Gustavo like Santaolalla or whatever. I think he was even there. Yeah, like I'm almost positive they did something like this at some point, like a very exclusive like event. I think. I heard him talk about it on the Last of Us podcast. So yeah, I mean that's the answer.
That is the answer. Yeah, I think in terms of weirder ones, just get Astrobot.
Let's go. Yeah,
little beeps and boops as they run around and just interact with what other beeps and boops. Astro_Trobot at Flash T Robot writes in and says, Matt, how's BioShock going? It's not. Moving on. Listen, I'll play it one day when there's time. There are far too much. I have a hard time going back to older games. My mind very much does the old game is old, especially if there's so much new for me to experience.
Sure.
So I'd have to really find a window where I just want to sit down and play it across like all of the old Yakuza games I want to play. And there's so much. My list is long. BioShock is just nowhere near to the top of that list.
Can I just say too, Matt, by the way, it just, I don't know if it is because we were talking about Astrobot immediately before that question came in, just clicked for me that person's name was Ash Trobot. This whole time I've been familiar. Just clicked just now. I was today years old. Yeah. So yeah.
Me too. Just having those right beside each other. I think,
so glad I was not alone on that. Yeah.
You're not alone on that. Not at all. But yeah, we'll see. I'll get to it eventually, maybe. Gamer Graham at GTM618 writes in and says, my question is, how is everyone loving Lies of P? And other than Bluey and Spider-Man, what is your next most anticipated game remaining this year? Are you playing Lies of P?
No, I think that is the funniest game. Dude, they made a Souls-like about Pinocchio, dude. Like, what in the hell is happening? It's so funny. I just love that it exists. Like, and I hear it's actually amazing.
I've heard it's really good, and apparently, like, there actually is like a lying mechanic that has actual ramifications to what's
kind of sick.
Like, what?
That's kind of sick.
Give me like a Kirby Souls like at this point. Like, what other Cooking Mama? Like, if you fail the recipe, you die. Like, give me other pointless things that make
all these like
in a weird way.
Public domain properties getting like they're making movies. Like a. Well, not even horror movies. Yeah, they announced it like recently. There's like a Christmas Carol Metroidvania coming out. Like just these public domain like properties getting like hardcore serious video games. I'm here for it. I do want to play it. I liked the demo actually. The demo was good, so I would like to get to it at some point. It's just so funny that it even exists.
Dude. Same. I'm in the same boat. Like it's a game that looks really cool. I'm not a big Soulsborne player, so for me, it's not something that I'm rushing into day one. It might be something that I check out down the road. But yeah, like I'm glad people are enjoying it. People are saying, it was getting glowing reviews. It seems to be, getting a ton of praise. So good for them. And the second part, what other games inside of Bluey and Spider-Man are you most anticipated for? I think for me, between Persona 5 Tactica and Like a Dragon Gaiden, those are two that are very, very much very high on my list. And obviously Mario Wonder. Cannot forget about Mario Wonder.
Oh yeah.
But what else is on your list for the rest of this year?
In PlayStation land for the rest of this year, I think the big one. I mean, Spider-Man 2 obviously is going to be huge, but Alan Wake 2 I think is probably the big one for me with PlayStation. It's probably the one that I'm like, I think I got to be day one on that. I love the first one so much. I'm a huge Alan Wake fan, so I think I gotta just dive in there. It's coming out the right time, right around that Halloween moment,
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, let's keep this spooky train rolling because Rapidly Graying writes in and says, with spooky season approaching, what spooky games are you hoping to squeeze in?
I'd like to play Signalis. I'd like to play
Nice.
Signalis. Yeah, that's been on the list for a minute. They just did it for Backtrackers. I didn't get a chance to do it. So that's been on the list for a minute. I don't know. Anything for you jumping to mind?
Alan Wake, honestly, like again, the second one looks really cool. I've never played the original. October might be the right time to hop in. From what I understand, it's a pretty quick game to get through. I understand it's not super long.
Yeah, 10, 12 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like I feel like a good length for a game like that. So I think Alan Wake might be on my October list. I might get in a bit of spoopiness before the second one because the second one does look pretty cool.
Paranormasight. I don't know if Paranormasight's on PlayStation or not, but everybody should play Paranormasight. That game is amazing. That's genuinely one of my favorite games of the year so far. It is published by Square Enix. It's a sort of visual novel, sort of detective game, but a fourth wall breaking, amazing story, totally unexpected. It's another one you can get through like fairly quickly, and man, that game just hooked me and never let me go. I loved it. So I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's on PlayStation or not. It's on Switch and PC for sure. But man, that's a great like spooky kind of game.
It is on Switch, Android, iOS, and Windows. This game looks cool.
Yeah,
I might
it's
have
great.
to. I love me a good spooky visual novel, so maybe this is the time. More questions to go, my friend. Savoy Prime writes in and says, Matt, what are your thoughts on Baldur's Gate 3 since you finished it? Do you think folks who are new to CRPGs or maybe not the biggest fans of them will be able to enjoy it? I loved it. I'm not a big CRPG person. The last number of years, I think I've played, Disco Elysium and this. I'm not one that delves a lot into the genre. I think the biggest thing, I think a lot of people could enjoy this game. I think the biggest thing is just give yourself time with it at first, because it was overwhelming at first as I tried to learn the systems, learn what's going on, learn this and that. Don't be afraid to save scum. Like seriously, use multiple saves. Go back if you pick up a spell that you don't like. If you level up in a way that you're like, oh, I don't actually like what I did. Go back. If you're not comfortable with the decision you made, go back. Just the game is yours to do with it what you will, so enjoy it for what it is. The world and the combat and the choices and just everything about it is what drew me in. And then, again, I already like strategy RPGs. I like it. Like, I love Fire Emblem. I love a good tactics RPG. So it was enough of that DNA in terms of the combat to really rope me in. And it's still my game of the year so far. So, yeah, I think give it a chance if you can. Obviously, it's a big commitment, and it's a lot of money to roll, roll the dice on.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
But I loved it. It completely grabbed me. Did you play it, Seth? Are you
No, I still haven't played it. I got to. I've played D&D for many years. And so I know that I would like it. I have been debating lately on picking it up to play co-op with my wife, like on the weekends. My wife.
Nice. My wife.
To pick that up and for her and I to have like a co-op experience on the weekends. I have been debating on it, but we'll see. I feel like I have to. I feel like I must play it just to even, be alive in this world. So I should do that. Yeah.
You should do that. You would like it.
I know I would.
Renoa writes in and asks, since we have a prestigious guest from the Nintendo Drive on the show, what is the best game available on both PlayStation and Switch, and why is it Final Fantasy VIII?
Awesome Dave's got to come off the Final Fantasy VIII thing, man. I love you, Awesome Dave, but it's a weird hill to die on. It's just it's the game. It just ain't it, man. I love you, but no. But joking aside, I love that he loves it that much.
I know.
Can I just say
I love that he loves it. Yeah, 100%.
Right. I love that he loves it. I was reading that that Lil Gator game is coming to PlayStation pretty soon. Okay. That's my answer. That is a perfect game. Little Gator game is a perfect game. There's it is wholesome, heartfelt. It'll make you cry. It has wonderful gameplay mechanics. It is beautiful. It runs perfectly. It's just this perfect little thing. And it's what everybody needs in their lives. Just this cute little gator that just wants to spend more time with his big sister. Yeah, everybody needs to play a Little Gator game. And I think it's coming to PlayStation soon.
This game has a 10 out of 10 on Steam.
Dude, I'm telling you, there is not a flaw with that game. And it's perfect length. You can 100% it in 5-6 hours. I'm sure it'll be a great platinum. Perfect game.
Dude, it comes to PlayStation tomorrow.
Oh snap! Yeah, everybody should play that. Yeah.
There you go. Little Gator game is it, coming from the Nintendo Drive man himself. Nagachaka writes in, and yes, Sean, 100%. The answer is neon white. The answer is neon white.
Just play neon white.
Just play neon
Yeah.
white. Just play neon white.
Yeah.
Nagachaka writes in, what's the best DLC that has come out in 2023? And why is it the Ada Wong Separate Ways DLC for Resident Evil 4? Respectfully, of course.
Oh. I don't know how many DLCs I've actually played in 2023, to be honest with you.
I'm trying to think about that too.
Yeah. I don't know
Burning
how...
Shores was solid.
Okay.
The Horizon DLC. Yeah, I don't know if I've really played any other.
Yeah, like what DLCs even come out?
DLC from this. I mean, listen, buddy. I'm sure that Separate Ways is great, but I mean, I'm pretty sure Cyberpunk is going to steal that conversation away pretty quick. That is imminent. That is a big old DLC that's hitting tomorrow.
You're probably right.
Yeah, Phantom Liberty. Like, I think this is probably going to be the one that's going to be the best of the year. And from the sounds of it, I wouldn't be surprised if this reignites the Can DLC be Game of the Year conversation. Just by how people are talking about it. Yeah, I can't think of anything else that was kind of significant this year when it comes to DLC.
Yeah, nothing off the top. I feel like DLC in general, I feel like kind of goes under the radar, for a lot. But I think that stuff like Phantom Liberty, I think is really going to stand out. You mentioned Burning Shores, which I forgot Burning Shores was this year. Good grief, feels like so long ago.
I'm stoked for the Tales of Arise DLC that's hitting in November. Like, I'm very, very excited for that. Yeah. A few more questions to go. Coming from the one and only Drellesh. Questions for the show. Hey, Matt, a.k.a. Darth Silver Soul, and Court, a.k.a. Jedi Baby Mode, or I have never had sex with that bear. Hold it. Seth is here this week, a.k.a. the $2 hero. How excited are you to play Cyberpunk 2.0 and the corresponding DLC Phantom Liberty? To the trailer with Idris Elba get you hyped? Will you be starting a new playthrough? So we've already both kind of checked in on our hype levels. We're both excited to jump into it. The trailer is obviously great. I am starting
Idris
a new playthrough
Elba.
because there's no new Game Plus for it. So I will be starting a new playthrough. Seth is going to be starting his
I'll start a first playthrough. Yeah.
A first playthrough. Are you going to go Street Kid or are you going to go...
I don't know.
Corpo, or are you going to go the third one that I'm blanking? Not Ronin.
It was like Samurai or something like that.
No. It's another word that starts with R that I'm blanking on right now. That means Nomad. That's it.
Oh, Nomad. That R word. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to. I'm not the type of person to like min-max. Like, I don't really like read up ahead of time or anything. I'm just gonna like dive in and see what speaks to me in the moment.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Street Kid was the most like punky feeling for me, and I was like,
I bet I'm going with that.
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Yeah. You're gonna be a Street Kid. There's no doubt in my mind. Also, Matt, Cyberpunk 2077 still have a chance to be our RPG of the year? No. Baldur's Gate has won that race, and across things like Tales of Arise, not Tales of Arise, sorry, Trails into Azure, Trails into Reverie. There's like so many RPGs this year that hold my heart. That, like, again, if I hadn't played Cyberpunk before, maybe, but as I've already played it, I don't know if it's like, I'd be surprised if it shot up my list that definitively. And last question: in what way is the relaunch strategy of Cyberpunk similar or different from No Man's Sky? Will Starfield need a similar strategy in the future, as developers have promised long-term support for the game, and it still feels "quote-unquote" unfinished to some? Thoughts?
Didn't they? I mean, I don't know. I haven't kept up with its journey quite as much, but isn't Phantom Liberty supposed to be it? Like, isn't that supposed to be?
That's it. That's all.
Yeah,
the
that's the end of the road.
The
one time were talking about. That's what I thought. Yeah, they at one time we're talking about multiplayer, I think, but I don't think that's a thing anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of this does feel No Man's Sky in the way that, like, they just kind of put their heads down and they got the thing done. No Man's Sky, I think, had a much more kind of... No Man's Sky used many more punches to get the point across. They had a number of expansions, of DLC drops that kind of helped make the game better as it was. And while Cyberpunk has done updates along the way, in the last week or so with the 2.0 and now with Phantom Liberty, that's their kind of big drop. They're like, here it is. Here is a lot of the things you've been asking for. Here is an overhaul of the game. Here is the expansion. We're done. We're moving on. See you next time. So while No Man's Sky continues to be a living, breathing thing, so I think in terms of them just kind of shutting up and getting it done, I think that kind of mirrors the No Man's Sky strategy. But I think No Man's Sky took a number of smaller steps with a couple of bigger ones in between, while Cyberpunk is very much just, here it is, we're done, this is what it is, have fun.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like Cyberpunk sort of had a much more singular mission as well, which I think is CD Projekt's sort of MO. They're making single player games primarily. No Man's Sky is like, it's at this point almost closer to like an MMO sort of thing, where they're creating this like sort of larger than life space exploration thing that is going to be around for years and years and years. And it's really funny to see people who are maybe sort of missing that in Starfield kind of come over to the No Man's Sky section, and the way that they keep like updating that game and adding content to it. I think it's smart, and I think they've sort of just dedicated themselves to that game in a way that CD Projekt probably can't with Cyberpunk. Like, they sort of have to at a certain point be done. It's like, we got to move on to the next thing, whether it's the next Witcher game, whether it's something completely different. So yeah, it's interesting. I could see why the comparison is there, but they're very different games.
Yeah, I think, hopping, I played maybe just a couple hours of Starfield, and it made me miss No Man's Sky so much more, though, so that like I went back and ended up playing it for like 12 hours one weekend with a friend of mine.
Wow.
That game is fantastic. I think it does, now, I think it is an unfair comparison against Starfield now, because again, one had much more time, but Starfield just wasn't it for me personally. And I think No Man's Sky scratches that spacefaring itch a lot more for me. But again, we'll see what happens as time goes on. We have one final big old question from Brian Eck, and this has been a hot topic in the PlayStation Drive, so it would be amiss not to bring it up quick before we go. There's been a lot of talk about Final Fantasy Rebirth and spoilers. As someone who's never played the original game, and as more new generations of players are being introduced to the RPG genre with a lot of the remakes releasing, it's a little disheartening when there's people who are justifying spoiling a game and ruining it for other people. I would love to know what you guys think about this, and so my question is, what are the statutes of limitations on spoilers for a game that is 20 years old, even if it's a remake? I appreciate you guys keeping the conversation spoiler-free, not just on the PlayStation Drive, but on all CPG shows. Thank you, and keep up the great work. I bring this up because someone at Kotaku spoiled a character death in Final Fantasy VII, and while I'm not mad, it still sucks. Maybe I'm at fault? What do you think, Seth?
It's a tricky one. I do feel like at a certain point, when you are part of like, I don't know which character death Brian's. I'm assuming the character death in Final Fantasy VII is the one that Brian is referring to being spoiled. That I feel like has become such a part of like the gaming zeitgeist that if you are engaging with the gaming zeitgeist, you're almost sort of in agreement to like a social contract of like, at a certain point that thing is going to be, fair game to somebody. There's so much discourse happening all the time that like, if you're sort of entering the pool, somebody's going to feel comfortable to pee in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I could just make that comparison, like you're going to have that sort of experience, and you kind of have to just either play the game or be okay with it. And in the case of Final Fantasy VII Remake in particular, it's interesting because like, I wouldn't be the least bit shocked if that doesn't happen in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I think that would actually be very bold of Remake to like actually take a left turn there. I don't know if it will or won't, but I don't think, in other words, I don't think you need to be super worried about being spoiled from Final Fantasy VII, because like, it really is that different. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes, but like the statute of limitation on spoilers is a really interesting thing, because I don't feel like we should be openly talking about spoilers, a month after the game just came out or something. But when we're talking about a, 20, 25-year-old game, then like, it's got to be open season at some point, doesn't it? It's strange.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because, like you mentioned, like especially in general media, pop culture, especially if you're engaging with social media, there is no statute of limitations for anything. Unfortunately, people are spoiling pivotal plot points to TV shows, to games, literally as they're happening. You know,
Right.
I don't open Twitter until, you know, like, for example, Ahsoka's going on right now. I don't open Twitter until after I've watched it. Just because, like, I know somebody, even if they put, you know, asterisk, 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 spoilers, like, it doesn't really do anything. Your brain will see stuff. So it's tough, because I think at that point, especially for something like a Final Fantasy VII, you almost have to stay away from anything regarding it. They could spoil it in a trailer, Square Enix, if they really, really wanted to. They could make allusions to it. You know, people aren't stupid. They could figure something out if they see something that looks the way that it is, regardless of whether it happens or not. And again, that can trigger a conversation. So it becomes almost like, if the property, in my mind, is important enough to you that you don't want to know anything, you can't engage. Do not look up articles, do not watch videos, do not watch trailers, because especially in the case of something like a Final Fantasy VII, where some of those moments are very pivotal to any conversation when it comes to talking about the game, you almost have to go on a media blackout when it comes to anything like that, and then kind of find your outlets or your sources that you trust not to spoil something for you. Like, again, we're careful here because we are mindful of the fact that a lot of people are wading into something for the first time, and we try to be, at least, you know, spoiler conscious. Like, when we are going to be talking about something, we make that known, but it's hard. People slip up. It could be something that, again, you're not even thinking about it as a spoiler anymore, because it's been commonplace in media and in circles for years and years and years now. It's a tough thing to figure out. It's almost like, you know, would you rather not do anything, or do you play the first game now? Do you go and watch a spoiler video just so you get ahead of things, so you know what things are coming? It's tough, because it's a hard thing to weigh into in the age that we live in now. It's impossible to avoid stuff unless you are very, very, very committed to avoiding stuff. It's almost like an active choice to stay away from anything related to it, knowing that that still might not work. So
Right.
like you said, when it comes to something new, I would like to think that people will hold off for a couple weeks, a month, to get people, you know, give people time to experience these things. But unfortunately, I just don't think that's the world that we live in anymore, and people will spoil everything. People will spoil stuff in thumbnails. I've had major plot points for movies and games spoiled in the thumbnail that I hadn't even considered. Right? Like, I wasn't even on YouTube looking for anything regarding that. I was watching something else and it popped up in my recommended. So it's tough, it's like, nowadays to stay away.
The risk you take, almost, you know, by just like engaging in this sort of culture and this sort of thing, is like, you know, like, unfortunately, that stuff is going to enter into your purview. And yeah, you can take steps, like, certainly, like you said, the media blackout, block those Twitter words, you know, do what you got to do to try and put your best foot forward if it's important to you to not be spoiled on something. But you know, it's funny too, because like, I've noticed too that, like, algorithmically or whatever, these things will sort of enter into your purview too. My friend Eric was he was so hyped about Mortal Kombat 1. He's like, oh my god, this game is getting spoiled, like, to hell and back before it's come out. I was like, I haven't seen anything. I'm also not on, like, you know how TikTok is, like Mortal Kombat TikTok or something like that. Like, I'm just I'm not getting fed that sort of stuff, because that's not entering into my purview as well. So you know, but you're always at risk of that. And you know, I think that's sort of, it's a tricky thing. But it is sort of a necessary evil, or if not a necessary evil, an inevitable one, you know? So be aware of it, tread carefully, and maybe, you know, if it's something that's important to you, make that decision and proceed from there. And, you know, play the games. Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck. Like, I hate to, you know, make it out to be anything else, but there's nothing much else we could do. But that, my friends, brings us to the end of the show. Everybody who wrote in and with your wonderful questions, we appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you always. But Seth, thank you for coming and hanging out with me one more time.
Of course.
You know, it's always a pleasure rocking with you. If people wanted to see and hear more from you, where could they do so?
Of course, I'm on the Nintendo Drive here on Carpool Gaming, which, you know, honestly, Matt, if anybody wanted to come hang out with us on the Nintendo Drive, it is a Nintendo podcast, but not really. Like, even if you're not a Nintendo fan, I think you would still have fun. We barely talk about Nintendo over there. I'm just going to keep it 100. It's the Seinfeld of pod. It's the show about nothing. We just hang out and have fun. So we'd love to see you over there here on Carpool Gaming. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at $2Hero. And always a pleasure to hang out with you, my dude. I love spending time with you. Always fun.
Seriously. yeah, the Nintendo Drive is a wild and wacky little corner of the internet, so make sure you go check it out. There's so much to love there. As for myself, you can find me over on X at Matt_SilverSoul, and of course here on the PlayStation Drive. And you might see some of my articles and stuff pop up over on Console Creatures as well. Happy to be writing for that site now as well, so come check us out there. But also, Seth, we cannot leave without saying thank you to our most wonderful patrons. We appreciate all of you incredibly. We could not do this without you. But of course, we have to shout out our ultimate producers, Robbie Bobby Miller, who you can find over on The List podcast. You can catch that in the notes below. Make sure you go check out Tony Baker at youtube.com/quest4pixels. Jonathan Brown, you can find over at his link tree at pme.jib. And of course, Lena Barrow, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team at phoenixoverdrive.com. And of course, the homie Trucker Sloth, our platinum producer, RJ Kern, and our wonderful gold members, Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, Bowsah, Cecily Carrozza, Dannohh, Drellesh, Emily O'Kelly, Hoppel, John 32, Marcus O'Neill, Markus McCracken, MoSpankins, Peje EP, and Tim Aulph. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Just be aware that the show will not be live next week just because of life happening. I'm going to be in San Francisco. Court has some stuff going on as well, so we won't be live next week, but the show will very much be there. We will signal off with the questions post when we're going to be recording, so you can all get in on the ground floor. We'll see you next week. Everybody stay safe. We love you all. Peace.
Peace.